Tennessee, Georgia. I was so wrong about this. I released my Saturday soliloquy, right? Every game day, I'm doing a video on Instagram. Mine this week was uh, on Tennessee and Georgia and how I thought there was a very real path to victory for Tennessee. I will say, I was listening to SiriusXM radio while driving around the Metroplex this weekend, and they were talking about how NFL scouts were projecting Tennessee was going to hang 50 plus on Georgia, that it was going to be a runaway train between the hedges. And it was the exact opposite. Georgia smothered Tennessee's offense. They scored 13 points, one touchdown, and that was very late in the game. It was basically a garbage time touchdown as Tennessee was just throwing everything against the wall. Stetson Bennett scored early. He scored often. The running game for Georgia was powerful. It was able to take Tennessee out of it. And then that defense, look, they schemed perfectly for Hendon Hooker. They did not allow the deep ball to be a threat. They didn't have the breakdowns on the back end that we saw so many other teams suffer from. And they blitzed Hendon Hooker. They got to the quarterback from a variety of different angles. In fact, they sacked Hendon Hooker 3 consecutive plays. Only 2 of them counted because one of them was a face mask penalty that gave Tennessee a first down on like 4th and 30. But they ran the same blitz 3 straight times, and every single time the free safety got home to Hendon Hooker. It just was a clinic in defensive scheming and blitz plays. I was so impressed with how Georgia played, and without a doubt, they're the top team in the country waking up today, tomorrow, on Tuesday night when they rank this.
Yeah, and I was on that before it was cool. So if you
Yes, you
were
were.
clowning
Yes, you
me
were.
for
Tip of the cap.
putting
No,
Georgia
not
number 1,
clowning, not clowning.
no, no, no,
Just
there was some social media clownage that happened,
oh,
but,
yes, yes. You did take some heat for that. Yes,
I
not
took a
not
little
from
heat
us.
on social, I think more for TCU, but, yeah, listen, this is one of the most talented teams in the country, and, Garrett, I think you highlighted the talent discrepancy just on paper between these 2 teams on our preview show on Thursday. It's astounding when you just look at sheer numbers, Jimmys and Joes. Georgia is one of the most talented teams in the country, and Tennessee, you know, is not quite there yet from a depth and stability standpoint. They have an amazing quarterback that's having a Heisman caliber year, and that's why they're in the top 5, and a great coach that can scheme offense with the best of them. So when you run into a buzzsaw like Georgia, it's gonna always be difficult. And when the Vegas line came out as like 10, I think it opened at 10 and it was bet down to 8 by kickoff. But that's just Vegas knowing that Georgia is still a really good team, even if they haven't shown it. So
Yeah.
they just took the ball out of Hendon Hooker's hands, plain and simple. They got a big lead in the first half, I think 21-3 or 24-3 at halftime. And they just kind of sat on the ball. And that's what Georgia can do because they weren't afraid of Tennessee getting back into the game. And they could have made an adjustment. They could have, if Tennessee scores coming out of the half, they can make an adjustment and turn it right back on. But they just kind of got the lead, sat on it, and took the air out of the football. And that's a good way to beat an offense that's scoring a bunch of points, is just don't give them the ball. And that's what Georgia did. They confused Hendon Hooker with blitzes. They caused him to throw an interception for the first time since like week 3, I think, or something crazy like that. So can't say enough good things about this Georgia defense. And the offense did just enough, I will say, to back up my take about them maybe losing a game down the stretch. The offense still looks a little sloppy. They had a couple turnovers. Stetson looked great in the first half, and then just everyone kind of went to sleep in the second half. But I will say I want to see just a little bit more cohesiveness on offense before I'm like, yeah, they're definitely going to finish unscathed.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I mean, apparently defense is still going to win you some championships. It's the cliche, but we live in this age of offensive prowess, and oh, it's impossible to make offense hard to do, and anyone can run a good offense and all that. We talk about that, but man, Georgia's defense is just at the most elite level that you could possibly be playing at in today's college football. And I think honestly, we could be looking back and talking about the early 2020s Georgia defense and sort of that rarefied air when we talk about historic units of all time, and we talk about, oh man, but do you remember those those teams back in the 90s and they did this and they I think we could be talking about Georgia just with what they do on defense, which is really strange given how the rules are right now. I think that you wouldn't expect to talk about a defense in today's day and age, but look, shame on any and all of us who doubted them and their ability to go repeat this thing, they are on top of everything. They're the kings of the hill, and they deserve to be there until someone else comes and take it from them. Tennessee, it just looks like they had a snowball's chance in hell. They went into Athens. The crowd was crazy.
Hmm.
First possession they come out and they slow him down enough that they come out and they score a touchdown, and then they come out there. They had that crazy punt that went out at the one, and then they have
Yep.
that whole sequence on the
75-yard
goal
punt.
line. An
Yep.
insane punt, by the way, and the crowd was hype, and they should have been, right. There was just a rocket off his foot that rolled out at the one. I mean, that was incredible. I get jazzed about that kind of stuff whenever you're talking about crazy special teams plays too. The thing I wanted to highlight with this is just in terms of the stat disparity. Georgia came into this game giving up 10.8 per game, and Tennessee came into this game scoring 45 per game. Something had to give, and it was clearly Tennessee's offense that gave. Georgia got to do what they wanted to do. We know what Georgia is. They statistically speak for themselves. Are they incredible on offense? No, they're not incredible on offense, right? They scored 27 points. And by the way, props to Tennessee's defense for holding them to 27. I know that they didn't have the
Sure.
best day. I know that there were some frustrating moments, and there are a couple blown coverages. There's that big one to I can't remember who, but they had a blown coverage
Probably
early in that
Lad
game.
McConkey, the
Yeah,
double move
McConkey.
down the
Yeah,
sideline. That was
yeah.
filthy.
But props to them. If you were to tell Tennessee fans, hey, Georgia scored 27 on Saturday, they would have been ecstatic, right? They would have been like, oh my gosh, we're going all the way. Book your tickets to Atlanta. And then you said, oh yeah, by the way, you only scored 13. They said, wait, I'm sure I heard you wrong. 30? No,
Yeah.
13. You only scored 13 points in this game. So props to them. Great job to them. And yeah, is the offense incredible? No. But your offense doesn't have to be incredible when your defense is at this level, right? Do I want to see him score more points? Yeah. I want to see him utilize Brock Bowers more. I want to see him establish somebody as a leader outside of the wide receiver core. I want to see him do more than just run the football. I'd like to see Stetson Bennett play a little bit better. At the same time, they don't have to right now. They really don't have to. They just played probably the best offense they could play, and they held him to 13 points.
Hmm.
Ohio State was running the same offensive numbers. I broke that down going into the show last week. That means that Ohio State should score about 13, and after what they did in Chicago, that sounds about right. It's not going to be pretty for people that play Georgia this year. This is why I think at this point I feel extremely comfortable having them cruise to a 15-0 and a repeat of the championship. For me, I think this knocks Tennessee out. I know we just talked about the playoffs and all the different paths for a bunch of people, but I think if you're talking about a team making it in that didn't even win their division, I think you're talking about Ohio State or Michigan, and I don't think you're talking about Tennessee. So that's just my perspective on this one. I know that we had a different conversation about that off the top, but that's where it comes down to for me. But this is all about Georgia just being the best team in the country by a mile.
Tennessee needs help. There's no doubt about it. The optics are not great. I think it's going to come down to who loses that Ohio State Michigan game and how they lose it, because that's probably going to be the nearest point of reference. Trady, what do you think?
Well, if you believe the All-State playoff predictor on ESPN's website, I plugged it in earlier today with Tennessee winning out and not making their conference championship game, and it said they have a 67% chance still to make the playoff. So I don't know where they're getting their numbers from, and I know that in the past it's been kind of a, haha, look at this, but that thing is usually somewhat accurate. So
Yeah,
I'll say I'll just throw that number out there. The most impressive stat to me for this game: Tennessee was held to 94 rushing yards and just over 2 yards per carry.
yeah,
So
Yeah,
insane.
incredible.
Like what I was highlighting last week with the Kentucky game is if you can contain Hendon Hooker's scrambling ability, you have a really good chance to shut down Tennessee. That's what Georgia did. 18 attempts for 17 yards for Hendon Hooker.
Gracious. Yep.